Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the Richmond City Council meeting for Monday, March 22nd, 2021 to order. Madam Clerk, on the minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there can be a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held on March the 8th, adopt the minutes of the special council meeting held on March 15th, and adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting for public hearings held on March 15th.
So move the minutes.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Any agenda additions or deletions?
None, Your Worship.
Okay, then we have a presentation. Diane Purvey, Chair of the Gateway Theatre Society Board, and Ms. Camilla Tibbs, Executive Director for the theatre, to present the theatre's operations for 2020. Have they joined us? Madam Clerk, have they joined us?
Yes, they're in the meeting.
Okay. Diane Purvey?
Hello.
Hi, and Camilla Tibbs. Is Camilla with you?
Yep, I am. Where are they?
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mayor, City Council, and respected guests, my name is Diane Purvey, and I'm the Chair of the Board of Directors for the Richmond Gateway Theatre Society. With me are Executive Director Camilla Tibbs and our Director of Artistic Programs, Barbara Tomasic. I'd like to take a moment to thank my colleagues on the board for all of their work and also recognize those who are outgoing. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of all the Gateway staff, particularly given the challenges of this past year. The unwavering support of the City of Richmond has been essential to Gateway this year and to the ability of staff to create new ways of engaging with Richmond audiences. So thank you for your commitment to Gateway and to arts and culture programs in Richmond. And now I will pass things over to Camilla so she can tell you about what Gateway has been up to. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Thank you, Diane. Usually in these updates, we just talk about the previous calendar year, but this year I thought I would focus on Gateway's pandemic experience, what we've done so far, and a little bit about what we have on the horizon. We did begin 2020 as normal with a main stage production, Straight White Men, but then things changed quite substantially. One aspect of our programming which was able to continue almost without interruption was our academy. Thanks to the determination of our education manager, Ruth McIntosh, classes quickly switched to online last April, and we also ran summer camps online. And in the fall, in-person classes started again, but with smaller groups to ensure appropriate distancing. We even added a class for young adults specifically about creating artistic works for alternative spaces such as YouTube and Twitter. For adults, our first foray into online programming was our Arts While Apart digital talk show, 3 episodes of behind-the-scenes conversations with local artists. In September, we offered a 3-part series of conversations for emerging artists. Hosted online by artistic and community producer Jasmine Chen, with partners the Greater Vancouver Professional Theatre Alliance and Rumble Theatre, each salon featured artistic leaders from local companies who shared their personal experiences and industry knowledge with young artists. For Halloween, we commissioned former Branscombe House artist-in-residence Keely O'Brien to create a miniature theatre made of paper that families could assemble at home. Complete with a script by Jasmine Chen, 129 households enjoyed this beautiful item. For the holiday season, we presented an online musical review featuring favorite performers and songs from past Gateway musicals. The online stream included American Sign Language interpretation and closed captions in English plus traditional and simplified Chinese. We partnered with the Children's Arts Festival in February and March to offer a variety of workshops with artist and academic Annie Katsura-Rollins, an expert in Chinese shadow puppetry. A workshop video was circulated to Richmond schools, plus online workshops were offered to families, community members, and professional artists. We have several plans in the works for the coming months. In May, timed to correspond with Mental Health Week, we're offering 2 public events, an online discussion with 2 artists who are also mental health advocates, and a workshop around mental health led by theater artist Jan Derbyshire. As you know, we're partnering with the city and funding a mural to go on our west wall facing Gilbert Road, created by artist Carmen Chan, through engagement with our immediate and surrounding communities. We're also investigating the possibility of some small outdoor concerts outside the building this year, and looking ahead to the fall with some ideas around COVID-safe events and hopefully an in-person production by December. Before I wrap up, I'd like to touch briefly on our financial position. We finished our last fiscal year essentially at break-even with a small surplus of $1,500. Currently, we're seeing some savings, and these are going to be used to offset anticipated shortfalls in revenue when we're able to reopen. All the research indicates that audiences will be slow to return to performing arts attendance, so we're planning prudently as a result. Finally, Gateway stability and the projects we've been able to undertake would not have been possible without the support of the city. So on behalf of everyone at Gateway, including our audiences, I'd like to thank you for your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, both of you. And I'll ask if there's any questions. I see Councillor Day has her hand up.
Thank you so much for that presentation. It doesn't surprise me that the creative people that are part of the Gateway Theatre have come up with incredibly creative ways of dealing with the restrictions due to the COVID-19 restrictions. My question is, do some of these ideas, do you imagine, will continue? I mean, given that they've been so successful and you've had incredible intake, that maybe once we get back to the new normal, you might actually continue some of these programs afterwards.
Possibly, yes. We're certainly next year is looking like some sort of hybrid model, and certainly for the mural, we're anticipating online workshops with people. We do focus on activating the building, though, as our primary intention. Our assumption is that that's what the city likes us to do. So that's our primary focus. But there are also other new events that we're planning that involve reaching outside the doors and connecting with new people. Ideally in person, though, I hope.
Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the delegation. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Now, I drive by there very often, and I know that you've been having some renovations. So perhaps you can tell us about where you are with that and how's that been. I mean, I guess if you had to be closed, now is a good time to do a renovation, but can you give us an update on your status?
Yes, I mean, mostly the project staff are the ones who are experts on that, but we're in the process of hanging all of our new lighting equipment on our newly upgraded electrical infrastructure. That's very exciting. And as far as I know, project staff are really happy with the exterior of the building and how that turned out. Certainly the timing did work well for us because this construction project has taken, I think at least a year longer than anticipated. So if that delay is going to happen, then a pandemic is a perfect timing. The other thing that's happened is that there was an upgrade of our concession on the second floor to make it much more functional. So we're excited to be able to put that in action once we're back in the building.
Well, thank you for that.
Through Your Worship, I'll just add to Councillor McPhail. Yes, the full capital project was completed a few months ago, and the contractor has fully demobilized from the site. And as Ms. Tibbs has indicated, they are just doing some of the fittings, furnishings, and equipment after that.
Okay, thank you. So I'll thank the good folks from the Gateway Theatre for coming forward with your report. As I indicated to you at your AGM, I mean, you've been through everything in the last 2 years. You've been through the road construction, which just decimated the road in front of your place. You have the building envelope changes and all the reconstruction there. You've had internal changes and then COVID added on top of that. And you're still standing. So congratulations to the Gateway, to the board, to the staff, to the sponsors, and to the volunteers. Hopefully we get back to normal, and that includes the Gateway Theatre, but I guess it's going to be a long road yet. So anyway, hang in there, keep doing the good work, and keep in touch with us. So thanks for what you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll ask, may I have a motion to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to hear delegations on agenda items?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Now, I have a list of the delegations. So are the delegations in the meeting now? Okay, so the delegations should be able to speak when called upon. When you get called upon, I ask that you give us your name, your address, identify yourself. All of you are speaking on the 5-year financial plan. So we'll look forward to your remarks as far as that goes. You are limited to 5 minutes, and because there's quite a number of delegations, I ask that you honor that, or I may remind you if we kind of go over. So the first delegation is Sheldon Starrett. Oh, yes, Councillor Au. Councillor Au, we are going, because this is a matter of the budget for which you have a conflict, we will excuse you for the time being.
So I'll turn off my video.
Turn off your video, yeah. Okay, so the first speaker then is Sheldon Starrett.
My name is Sheldon Starrett. I'm a resident of Richmond. I reside at 7373 Westminster Highway. I will be speaking in relation to the 5.68% tax increase included in the consolidated 5-year financial plan for the city of Richmond. The Richmond Community Coalition conducted a survey between the dates of February 24th and March 14th to collect public opinion on the aforementioned property tax increase. This survey was advertised in many local media outlets such as Richmond News, Singtel Daily, and across social media. We garnered 1,743 responses in that short amount of time. The tax increase contained within the 2021 budget at 5.68% received much attention from Richmond residents. 97% of our survey respondents opposed the proposed increase or felt that there should not be any increase at all. Many seniors and retirees on fixed incomes had expressed feelings of economic hardship thrusted upon them when COVID-19 has already placed great burdens upon them. Many residents are feeling the psychological impacts of COVID-19 with job losses, income losses, increased home bills with internet, electricity use, strata insurance fees, and have indicated this feels one more pile up on them. Many small business owners also feel an uncertainty as they are attempting to get off their feet after the economic hardship of last year. Many of these small business owners are the backbone of the local Richmond economy and will pay a higher portion of taxes due to this increase, even if their revenues have been negatively affected by the pandemic. Many respondents had offered suggestions on finding cost reductions elsewhere in the budget or deferring the hiring of additional RCMP officers and support staff. We conducted a public town hall with retired West Vancouver Police Chief and former Vancouver Police Superintendent, Cash Heed, also a longtime resident of Richmond, who explained we don't necessarily need to hire more officers to find efficiencies in policing. Given the response to our survey, which we have provided copies of to each of you tonight, I humbly encourage each of you to consider the public consultation and engagement we have conducted. Many of the respondents to the survey have requested for each of you to give second thought to the level of the property tax increase in 2021 before the final adoption of the 5-year financial plan. It would seem Richmond residents and proprietors are very keen about government decisions that will impact them whilst we are trying to get through the most severe global pandemic in a century. I just want to thank you for taking the time to hear me out. And before you cast your final vote on the tax increase, I hope you do get to read through the survey report and the responses that were submitted to you earlier. If I have a little bit of time, I can read through some of the comments from some of the people who submitted comments to our survey. One respondent said, "This is a tough year for all Richmond residents and business owners. Why pick this year with the highest increase? Many landlords cannot increase rent, but the expenses will be burdened by them." Another respondent said, "During COVID times, the burden on residents should be eased, and the city should also look to reduce its budget and spending elsewhere." Another comment here on lots of people have lost their jobs or have income reduced over the last year. This person felt that it's not a good year to spend on additional items that can be delayed until future years. Another commenter said, "We don't need additional taxes. We are choking financially at this time."
Okay,
another one said,
I've got a question from Councillor Day.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Sheldon. You mentioned deferring the hiring of RCMP officers for a year. We did that last year, and one of the motions that I made was instead was to defer the hiring of the 12 firefighters for this year till next year. Do you think, after reading all the survey results, that the people that filled it out would agree with that?
Many of the survey results, they felt that, I guess for this year, it should perhaps be deferred further. They felt that provincial and federal governments were taking additional steps to ease burdens on them. So a lot of people felt that we may have to wait until we're out of the pandemic before resuming additional spending and hiring.
Okay, so just to follow up, Mayor Brody, because the reason I ask is that we have an opportunity to hire some of the most experienced officers from Surrey, given that the Surrey RCMP station is going to be, shut down in favor of a private facility. So I'm just wondering, we have the opportunity to defer the firefighters for 1 year, but it seems like a golden opportunity, and so I'm just surprised that...
Councillor, please stop. This is not asking him a question. This is part of the debate. We'll get to that in due course. So thank you,
Only firefight.
Thank you, Mr. Starrett. The next speaker is Alice Wong. And so I'm going to remind councillors, if you can ask questions of the delegations, but don't get into the debate.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good evening, Worship Mayor Bodie and councillors. My name is Alice Y.F. Wong. I've been living in Richmond since 1992. I live in 6259 J Court, and my office is also located in Richmond, which is Alderbridge and Shell. I'm here today to represent the Women Business Association of BC. And also, I'm representing the complex of 4871 Shell Road as well. First of all, I'd like to thank all the councillor and the mayor for serving this city. I've been proud being a Richmondite since I came here. But I'm here today to speak about the concern and the worry of Richmondites about the proposed property tax at 5.68%. And I find out for my Shell office, the actual increase for the city portion is not 5.68%. It's actually calculated as 14.9%, which will mean a lot to a small business owner. Here I am to ask you to consider to lower it to help all Richmondites, including business owners, homeowners, renters, to go through this unexpected and shocking worldwide pandemic. According to the statistic in 2016, 69% in Richmond are over 65. So these people are probably retired people living on their savings. About 63.5% are aged 20 to 46, which probably representing the working population in Richmond. But out of this population, 17,000 people lost their job lately, which represents 13.5%. More and more people are getting sick, and that means they have to be isolated, and their family has to be quarantined, and their income will be affected as well. I was shocked to learn that Richmond people are not actually rich at all, because over 60% of Richmondites are earning below $50,000 a year. I know we are talking about $99 per household on average, but every single dollar counts when we are facing financial challenges. None of us were prepared for this pandemic. All families are affected not only financially, but mentally and emotionally. I know a lot of people around me are very depressed, and I'm here to sincerely ask our mayor and all the councillors to understand we are not speaking against tax increase. We are here to ask and request all of you to understand this is a worldwide pandemic which had hit very hard people around the world. I sincerely hope that you can consider the financial and the mental hardship we're all going through now, and if we could consider holding our hands together to go through this by lowering the increase. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. The next speaker is Richard Lee.
Hello?
Hello.
You see me? Yeah, hi. My name is Richard. I live in Richmond in Nussum Road 10199. I'm speaking representing a group of our friends. We have about 70 families in a group called Richmond Leisure Group. And most of us are semi-retiring or self-employed person. Yeah, we do have some limited fixed income to live on, and some of them are doing self-employed work from time to time. But because of the COVID, I know a lot of people, especially at our age, are also taking care of their family, have pressure getting more cash day by day. COVID is a sudden disaster to all of us. No matter, some of our friends are landlords, and some of them are tenants renting other people's house. But with this hike on the tax, which is really high, we believe, out of 70 families in our group, we received 60 response from them, all are really against this rate hike. Mostly, I mean, it's just because we understand, it is a budget approved maybe 1 year or 2 years ago by the council, or it's somehow been suspended or delayed. But because of the COVID, we think the priority of Richmond people may have big changes since last year. Before, we know we can always do better if we have more resources. We all want Richmond to be better, and we are willing to give and pay for a better Richmond. But now it's different. It's, we thought about, COVID maybe finished last year, but it's not. Even this year, March, my feeling is similar to March, same as last year. Even we have some solution already, but still, the figures, all these things is not clear in the future. So, from our group, we all think about, it might be some need for new budget for policemen or firemen, but maybe it's just not the right time to do it at this moment. Especially the future is not clear. It's not only affected for landlord, it's also affecting the tenant, especially I think a lot of small business as well. I'm not a business owner, but when I go into a restaurant, I can feel they have great pressure over all these courses without a futurable tomorrow to see how we'll be break even, or everybody's in a difficult situation. We appreciate the federal and provincial government has done a lot to relieve people. So I think as a city which is much close to what our daily living, as a city councillor, please think about this priority again. We understand a lot of necessity to do this. It's better to do this and do this, but it's really not the right time to have this high priority, to add this tax hike at this time. That's what I want to express. Thank you. I am representing also our group. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. The next speaker is Chi Kin Chow. Is Chi Kin Chow with us? I guess not. All right, we'll move on to Albert Lowe. Is Albert Lowe with us? I see him. I think you're muted. There you go.
Hi. Your Worship and Councillors, my name is Albert Lowe. I live at 7660 Willview Drive. I've been a resident of Richmond since 1992 and also between 1976 and 78. My comments relate to the Consolidated 5-Year Plan, Bylaw number 10239, which includes the 5.68% property tax increase for 2021. Now, Council's rationale for this huge increase is to catch up on taxes and hiring more police officers and so on. And as you have heard some of the other speakers, we are still suffering from the pandemic and its adverse economic impact. On March 16, the local ethnic newspaper, South Asian Post, and the Asia Pacific Post reported that more than 43% of British Columbians are within $200 of not being able to pay for their monthly bills, leaving them teetering on the brink of insolvency. And Richmond is also impacted. And also you have seen the Richmond News, which talked about the more than 17,500 jobs that were lost last year, and business revenues have gone down by 17%. To the many families who are hurting from job losses and businesses that were closed, and others who have little income, $99 a year is money that they don't have, but they cannot afford. As to the Richmond RCMP, they have done a commendable job. Richmond is 56% safer than all Canadian cities, according to Statistics Canada's latest statistics. Richmond's crime rate is some 23% lower than the BC average. And apparently, the 51 additional RCMP officers in the 3-year plan, which predates the COVID-19, do not have to be all hired until 2027, as I understand. And with 35 of the 51 already hired, our RCMP officer to population ratio is about the second best in the region that's served by the RCMP. There's really no reason why the remaining 16 cannot be deferred for now until the financial situation of many homeowners and renters and so on have improved at least somewhat. And please reduce the 5.68% to something that's more reasonable and sensitive to the financial circumstances of Richmond. Because 5.68 is the highest among all the cities in this region, and it is also the highest for Richmond in the last 10 years that I can see. If I am not mistaken, I understand that the senior city staff had actually recommended a 2.9%, which seems to me to be a little bit more considerate and reasonable, considering the difficulties that we all have been facing. So please, my most esteemed Mayor Cody and all my esteemed city councillors, I appeal to your humanity and your compassion and your sensitivity to the people's plight at this most difficult time. Please do the utmost to help accommodate this situation and make it a little bit more palatable, helping to provide some relief to the families and the working people that are hurting. And by doing the best that you can to lower the increase, I think you would have demonstrated to all the people in Richmond, who are your neighbors, your friends, as well. Thank you for this time.
All right, thank you. The next speaker then is Tom Clark. Tom Clark here. I see the name. Are you there?
Hi, sorry. Now I am. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'll be brief. I'm here to voice my concern about excessive property taxes. The increase in taxes is far more than inflation, and this happens year after year. And the cumulative effect is, I think it's going to be devastating if we keep going the way we are. If anything, I would hope for a reduction in property taxes to make life manageable for people. The world has changed. Far more people are going to see lower incomes than greater incomes, yet it seems that taxes are going up and up and up every year. I ask a rhetorical question. Is it easier for council to approve a tax increase, or is it easier for council to actually try to manage costs and reduce costs? I think over the last number of decades in Canada generally, it's just been too easy to always toss in another tax increase. The world has really changed, and I don't think it's just going to be over with the vaccines for Canada. And I am hoping for leadership that sees the new world and makes adjustments appropriately for the greater good of our current and future generations. And I think that reduced taxes is going to be essential to make for a better Richmond for the future. Thank you for considering this.
All right, thank you. Next speaker is Alice Tang. You're muted. There you are.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My name is my name is Alice Tang. I'm a Richmond resident since 1985. I'm a homeowner with a property on Opal Place, and I'm also a business owner working out on Horseshoe Way. This evening, I'm here to oppose excessive tax hike proposed by the city. It is easy for people whose income are not affected by the pandemic to say that a tax hike of 5.68%, which is equivalent to an average increase of approximately $99, is nothing. Many families are facing financial challenges because of loss of employment, reduced work hours, or the need to stay home with their children during the pandemic. Seriously, I don't see how the city can justify such a hefty tax hike at this time. I do not want to challenge the leadership of the mayor or city councilors. However, I am sure some sort of adjustment can be done to show some empathy and understanding to the less fortunate, regardless of any existing strategic plan that the city has in place. As a community, we come together and we care for one another. My business in Richmond was closed for 9 months because of COVID. Not to say that we are in the red every month. We are trying very hard to keep afloat. Because of this tax hike on commercial properties as well, my landlord will be passing on this burden, which is more than a 10% increase onto me. Do the mayor and city councilors want to see more companies in Richmond go under? Instead of walking alongside with us, we feel that we are being trampled on. According to the 2016 census, there were about 78,000 households. 24,000 of those were detached homes, and the remaining 53,000 were multi-family dwellings, which are duplexes, apartments, and townhouses. We see more and more high-rises and townhouses going up. They have been built or are being built, and there will be more to come. In 2019, among the new construction, 91% of them were multi-family dwellings. This means that the city is taxing on many more properties. Thus, the city's property tax revenue is not dwindling, but increasing, if not exponentially, due to the many multi-family dwellings. Can the city explain why Richmond Dykes has slapped on higher property taxes when revenue has increased? In closing, may I ask that a copy of this report be incorporated as part of the minutes of tonight's meeting? Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I hope tonight's meeting is not futile, but our mayor and city councils are here to hear our voices. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker is Zach Siegel.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and hello to Your Worship and councilors. I live at 7468 Lansdowne Road. I've lived in Richmond most of my life, about 20 years of my life. And I'm here as an individual, a concerned individual, and also as part of a network of over 200 individuals who have reached out to express their opposition to this. I fully and respectfully understand the difficulties of planning a budget during COVID with everything going on. And I certainly sympathize, and I think that sentiment has been repeated here. And we're all fully supportive of the RCMP and the good work they do, and we understand the need to pay taxes. But a tax hike of this magnitude seems to go against what Richmond has done so well for so many years. I think Richmond has had this great reputation of being a safe community within a low-tax environment. That low-tax environment has drawn people from all over the planet to want to live here. And it's a badge of honor when we compare our tax environment to other municipalities in the Lower Mainland, and we want to keep that. And with the largest tax hike in the region this year, it seems, as Alice was saying, to not make a lot of sense how our problems could be that much worse that we need to justify such a large tax increase. As I was saying before, it's good, I think, for business and for investment and for an economy to show that you are a more favorable tax climate than your peers, but we seem to be doing the opposite here. And although you could break down the numbers to say this is only X dollars per day, it increases compound, and the increases that will come on next year will be added to the increases of this year, and it will grow exponentially. And I think that's why it's so important to keep taxes low and keep them stagnant, which I think is important to say. I think you guys have done such a great job of doing for so many years. I think which is why there is so much frustration that we seem to be going in the opposite direction. I think it's important to note that it is my understanding that city staff proposed a much smaller increase. And I think that city staff generally, it usually goes the other direction. So if they're proposing a smaller increase, I think there is a reason why. And I would very respectfully like to know why their smaller increase proposal was not taken up, and instead a higher increase was taken up by council. I think part of the reason, again, why there's so much frustration is just people in Richmond do not feel that this is justified. When there was the referendum in British Columbia for the TransLink tax hike, you could make an argument that it was a very small amount, but British Columbians felt that it was not justified, and they would have rather seen TransLink prove that they had found efficiencies elsewhere rather than coming back to them for more money. And I think that's the sentiment a lot of Richmondites feel. They want to know that council went to attempt to find efficiencies elsewhere and wanted to find every possible avenue of saving money before coming to the public for such a large increase and more money. But based on the fact the city staff proposed such a much smaller increase, it seems like that was not the case. And I'll just close by saying, as I said, it is such an unusual year, and I think everyone sympathizes with elected officials trying to plan a budget around this. But things will get back to normal, and once we're back to normal, the River Rock Casino will be back open. There will be revenue coming in from there. The night market will be back open. There'll be business license revenue pouring from that. We'll have people from all over the world coming to visit, tourism and immigration, and things will really be booming, I think, in a very short period of time. So it strikes me as unnecessary to load up this tax hike now when revenue is down so much when it will be back to normal. And as my friend earlier said, that it's not like Richmond is struggling. I mean, there are developments all over the place going up in Richmond, and we should be awash with cash. And so I think that is another reason why people are so frustrated and confused that Richmond had to hike taxes so much more than our neighboring municipalities that don't have the kind of development that we have here. So I'll close with that and say thank you. Thank you for hearing me out, and I hope you'll reconsider this tax increase. Thank you very much.
We have a question from Councillor Day. Councillor Day, you are muted.
Sorry.
You are muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Segal. Thank you. If we were to drop the 1% to reserves, do you think that would have a good impact or any impact at all on taxpayers?
Do you mean if the 1% was dropped, would it?
The 1% to reserves.
It would certainly help. I don't know what the dollar figure reduction would be, but I think every bit would help, absolutely.
What about if we delayed hiring 12 firefighters for 1 year? That would reduce it another approximate 1%. Do you think that would make a difference to taxpayers?
Yes, I would support that. Yes, it would make a difference.
Yeah, that was the two motions I made in council. Thank you very much for your honesty.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the last delegation, Carrie Leo Ganda.
Hi, Your Worship, and hi, councillors. My name is Carol again. I'm a proud Richmondite, and I've been living in Richmond since 1988. And I have my own property. I own a home in Richmond, and also I purchased a business premise in Canby Road for over 20 years now. I am a financial planner, and my daily job is actually meet with people of all walks of life and do their financial planning, whether they are business owners, professionals, or singles, or individual employment self-owners. While during this particular period of time, I have witnessed many different impacts in people's lives. And basically speaking, it is divided into emotional stress, financial stress, and physical stress. No doubt about it that the pandemic's effect, I would like to say that almost 100% of the people, they cannot go out, and even if they work at home, and they're very, very lonely. And for a business owner, a lot of the time they discover that the premise all of a sudden becomes too big. There are too many rooms, and too many people are not coming back to work in the office. And if they have rented out some of the premises out, they will find that it's very difficult to find tenants. And once people are out, they would not come back to or to rent an office or to buy a premise. So there are many uncertainties in this time right now. But before I want to share the uncertainties, I want to compliment on the Richmond Council that when I think of Richmond, this is the first time that I ever show up in any council meeting like that. Because I have so much high respect for the Richmond Council, and I always believe that they have been doing a great job. If I have to use 3 words to describe my Richmond Council, I would like to use the word accountable, responsible, and wise. And that is always I share with people who are new immigrants, telling them, okay, come and live in Richmond because we have such a vibrant, prosperous city, and people are working hard, and we have a great mayor, and it seems like that he's there forever. But anyway, he's so good. And so one thing about this tax hike, it really, really caught my attention tremendously. And because on behalf of many people, I would like to share with you that there's one thing that is certain at this season of life, and that is uncertainties. Many people are so uncertain right now. And if you ask any of the business owners, any of the people, they have been so uncertain. Before you listen to the uncertainties, I want you to take away your hat as a city councillor. I want you to wear the hat and imagine yourself as only a worker or a business owner who is not so sure of what the next step will be. Or maybe imagine that you are one of the young people. Okay? So basically speaking, if you are the employees, you might be, the question you would like to ask yourself all the time or between your spouses, will I be the next one to lay off? If the company continues to do like that, when is my layoff coming? And if you're the business owner, then you will ask, if I have to lay off people, whom should I lay off that will exercise the least impact in their life so that they can survive? And for the people who is due business, who is a due income family, also they were worrying, is planning ahead is, if my husband or if my wife got laid off, what kind of expenses did I have to cut in order to survive? Can I go to the banker to tell them, can they extend a line of credit for me? For some of the business owners, if they are in development, they would then go to all the bankers and to secure that the rate of interest would not increase. At the same time, that the line of credit would not be caught. Those uncertainties is really creating so much emotional stress that not only affecting the physical health, but also affect the marriage life and also affect the family life. It is more than you can ever imagine. And so even though the tax increase, you think that it's only $100 or $200, but it is the optic that the people feel. A lot of the time, the stress, the depression comes by imagination. And the fear factor creeps in, and then people started to get nervous. And Richmond has been built up such a great reputation all the time. And it takes a very long journey, and it takes a lot of prudent decisions to build such a great reputation. But with 1 or 2 bad mistakes made, the whole reputation will be ruined. And if I look into the hike, and when I read it, is How come Richmond got the highest increase in the property tax? This is really very destroying the reputation of the city council.
Ma'am,
So
I'll ask you to finish up your overtime now.
Okay, so I want the council to be cautious of what kind of reputation that the whole city would like to build. Thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you very much. May I have a motion to rise and report? Moved and seconded. Discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. That brings us to the consent agenda, and thanks to all the delegations who have come to share their views tonight. On the consent agenda, it's very short. We have the committee minutes, we have the RCMP monthly activity report for January, the City Center District Energy Utility Bylaw and the amendment, and the 2021 Liquid Waste Management Plan biennial report. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Moved and seconded. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting all the items on the consent agenda. I'll just speak on one of them. It's item number 9, the Liquid Waste Management Plan. I really appreciated it. It was a very thorough discussion we had at our Public Works and Transportation Committee on this. And I think a lot of questions and information came out through quite lengthy back and forth on this item. There was just a follow-up memo that Council received, and there was just a couple things from that I wanted to ask. I'll first mention that on page 86 of our Council package, I really appreciated the Mitchell Island Initiative description in there. I didn't mention this at committee, so I just wanted to say that now. And I think it really shows the value of that initiative, and hope that 18-month program can be a long-term project, and not just that industrial area, but many others. My two questions for staff, if they may be able to kind of follow up from the memo that was sent to us. So two things. In the first section, it was on odor control facilities in Richmond, and it talks about that there are none, but we deal with complaints. Could you just, or could staff please just clarify what is the method, the official method that a member of the public should use to address their concerns? Because some have said that they've made complaints, but then it didn't show up on the map that I was looking for. So if you could just share that first, thanks.
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the best way of doing that is to phone into our 24-hour service line, and through that we would track it through the system and divert it to the correct department.
Great, thank you. And then that would, I assume, show up on the map like it shows in this report for where the odor complaints are. That's great. And then my final question, I know the second part of this is about the stormwater quality monitoring, and the data is still being verified and analyzed, and it'll come to us soon. I'm just curious, and there's been lots of concern around microplastics in the ocean. Are we at all able to get data from this stormwater quality monitoring program on microplastics?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the measurement criteria is predefined in our stormwater management strategy, and I don't believe that is one of the measured criteria that we've stated as part of the plan to Metro Vancouver.
All right, then would there, through your worship to staff, would there be a further recommendation, or at this point that would be useful, or would this be a discussion for another Public Works and Transportation meeting?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, I'll defer that question to Mr. Chad Pollen, the Manager of Environment, who looks after the measurement of...
Yeah. May I suggest that you bring that to the Public Works and Transportation Committee, where you can have kind of a longer chat about it and get some more input from staff. Give them notice that that's what you want to talk about, so they'll be prepared to launch into it.
Great. Yeah, I'll also probably just wait for the data to come that's mentioned here, and then I'll follow up at the following Public Works meeting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fair enough. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also do want to speak to the liquid waste biennial report. One of the key things I think that we need to see from this is that we have no combined sewers here in Richmond. And so that means we don't have any inflow or infiltration. So that's something that Metro Vancouver charges municipalities for, is having that inflow and infiltration. And that's the stuff that causes overflows in the sewer system. So because Richmond has built good sewer systems that have separated systems, your stormwater goes into storm sewers, that we actually have a better system that is better for the environment, it's better for the wastewater treatment system, and it's actually better for your pocketbook. Because coming up at Metro in the next couple years, the staff at Metro is looking to have a new model of how they charge the end user. So that's you, that's the consumer, that's the taxpayer. And because we have a better sewer system, it's going to work better for us in the long run to have this separated sewer system. And so because Richmond has done a really good job of careful capital planning over the years, making sure that we build things right, we look at our budgets properly, and we spend money properly, that it's going to put us in a good position so that we're not charging our taxpayers a lot and more for the sewer systems. We do see that we are getting new wastewater treatment plants coming in. Iona, we saw that the good news that came across our desk the other day, that Lulu Island wastewater treatment plant now has renewable natural gas being pumped back into the system. And so a lot of good things are happening here. And this, because of the work Richmond does, it will help keep our costs down in the long run. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be supporting all the items on the consent agenda. And just to follow up on Councillor Liu, I want to talk to item number 9 as well, the Liquid Waste Management Plan Biennial Report. And, you know, as Councillor Liu mentioned, Richmond is in a really good place. And this was a really positive report to get. And, you know, because of the proactive work that we've been doing, we are continuing, you know, to exceed Metro Vancouver targets with the inflow and infiltration of stormwater into the sanitary sewer systems. The asset management plan, you know, we maintain an agent utilities infrastructure management plan and a growth-related infrastructure management plan, and they're both reviewed and updated regularly. So because we do that, we're quite ahead of the Metro Vancouver's target date. And I think it was really good to read about the water metering and the success that we've had. And Richmond is a regional leader in the water metering. So I want to thank staff as well, because while we set the policies and strategies, it's really our staff on the ground who get the work done and see that these are implemented. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I just want to follow up on that, what Councillor Liu and Councillor McPhail were saying, and an outstanding report. And I think this report needs to get more publicity to the taxpayer. Councillor McPhail mentioned the water metering. I remember when we had to vote on the water metering, and it wasn't a popular decision to take on the water metering because it might save us some money. And now those of us, the whole city is almost on water metering, and we have the lowest cost of water in the Lower Mainland because we were proactive of the day. We showed leadership, and it was not an additional burden to the taxpayer. So I think that's important, and it's part of the planning that's going on there. So I just wanted to follow up on that. The other two councillors hit most of my questions. The rebate program, where does that money come from? Where we've in the 2020 we had a rebate on 9,411 toilet rebates. Wow, what a success! 1,800 rain barrels, 1,300 clothes, etc., etc. Question to staff: obviously, that not only has given the taxpayers some money back and saving them some money, it has saved us quite a bit of money. And where would that show up?
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, that program is funded out of the water utility. So that would show up in savings in the residents and properties utility bills.
So they keep their utility bills down then?
That's correct.
In comparison. Okay. Yeah, thank you. And I think, your worship, I mentioned cost savings on page 69 when I like the sanitary sewer overflows in the inflow with whatever in our liquid waste plan. and I think that needs to be publicized more. This is sort of when we have most of our stuff is underground and people don't realize it, but I think it's something that we need to put out. We've got an outstanding report. We're probably number one. You and Councillor Steves can comment on that with regard to Metro Vancouver, and I think it's important that everybody knows about this. This is one program we wouldn't want to cut. Thank you for that, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Councillor Steves.
Yeah, thanks. Back to Councillor McNulty. Actually, our water and our sewer and our separate sewer system, these add up to a huge tax decrease for Richmond residents, giving us the lowest taxes in the region. Add on to that what we do in another avenue, the fact that we years ago decided to repair our roads before they got potholes in them, it also reduces the taxes. So I think it's important to note that what we are doing here in this report, we are keeping taxes down. It shows up in a different column, and that's all. Getting on with this is a problem, however, because Councillor Liu mentioned that we don't have combined sewers, and effectively we could end up with more taxes if Metro Vancouver makes us pay them.
Am I the only one who can't hear Councillor Steves? Put your hand up. Harold, are you still speaking? Harold, you're muted.
Okay, I had stopped. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened because I was finished speaking, but I just wanted to point out that the Metro Vancouver consistently wants us to help pay for the taxes of all the other sewer systems. And Richmond, the mayor, myself, and councillors on the board before that have always insisted that our sewer system is separate from theirs because we have done a good job. And it would increase our taxes dramatically if we ever have to pay the regional tax rates.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me this time. I just wanted to speak to item, wonderful, thank you. I just want to speak to item number 1, which is the RCMP monthly report. You know, I don't know if there's anybody that's had more stress on them than the Richmond RCMP in the last while. Between late November 2020 and early January 2021, there were 7 gang-related homicides in the Lower Mainland, and 2 were targeted shootings in Richmond. And just last week, there was 2 bodies found in a burned-out building. So I take my hat off to the work that they're doing, and I am absolutely impressed with their level of professionalism. You hear so many terrible stories about relations between RCMP and the public, but that's certainly not the case here in Richmond. And when you look to the chart on page CMCL 42, it's the January 2021 crime rate. Our property crime rate is the second lowest, only by 0.01% in BC, in the Metro Vancouver area. And our violent crime rate is, ironically, even with those murders, the lowest in Metro Vancouver. So it just really speaks to the excellent investigative work that the RCMP have done in the last, forever, but particularly the last few months. And so I just wanted to say how pleased I am with their professionalism, and I know I feel safe living here, and I hope other people do too. Thank you very much, Mayor Brody.
All right, thank you, Councillor Howe.
Yeah, Your Worship, I just want to comment briefly on 2 items. The first one is on the RCMP activity report. Once again, I agree with the Councillor Day that we have a very efficient and effective police force in Richmond, and they're serving the people well. They keep the crime rate low. And this is about the city sending a letter outlining Richmond's auxiliary police program. I think, again, that's a very important addition to the LCMP service in the city. So I think this is good to know and good to have, and also good to advocate for. And the other item is the liquid waste. And again, this is a good news report. When I read the report, I noticed that several things happened repeatedly. For example, we said these programs have been in place for a number of years, or we are ahead of other cities in these programs, or we continue to exceed Metro Vancouver targets. So I think Richmond is doing well, and I think we are the leader in the area. Now, I just want to ask staff about a question on CNCL 77 and 78. I've seen some boxes unchecked. For example, attachment 2, attachment 3, and 7, 9, and 11. So those boxes are not checked because of we don't have the information, or it's not necessary, or what? So why are some of the boxes not being checked?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, those boxes are not checked because they do not apply to Richmond. They are referring to combined sewers as well as sanitary overflows, both of which the city does not have because our systems are very well managed.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Just a couple comments from me, just to reflect on a couple of the things that have been talked about. First of all, the renewable natural gas that has been in the papers, I think it's important for our council to realize and the public to realize that Metro Vancouver has enabled this to happen, that they're using this, capturing this renewable natural gas. But the fact is they've been working with Richmond for years on that specific project. And it has come to the council before to authorize that to go ahead. I am actually dismayed that zero mention of that was made by Metro Vancouver. They usually don't grab the spotlight in that way, but on this time they did. In terms of the separation of the sanitary and the storm sewers, Councillor Steves and I are always vigilant about that one, and I think that Councillor Liu is on the Liquid Waste Committee. Am I correct? And so we're always watching that one. I mean, one of the arguments is we're putting in tertiary into Iona, which is the highest level of sustainability, shall we say, yet Vancouver has the combined sanitary and storm sewers. So when there's very heavy rains, regardless of whether you've got that tertiary treatment for your waste or not, there's going to be raw sewage going into the waters. And it was explained to me that the reason for that, the reason for the separated storm and sanitary sewers is simply because of age, because those sewers were built so long ago that that's what they did in those days, 100 years ago or something. But of course, they stopped doing it a long time ago. The three cities that have the combined sewers are Vancouver, Burnaby, and New Westminster. And I am told that while New Westminster has almost, Burnaby has almost fully done away with the combined storm and sanitary sewers. New Westminster and Vancouver have a long way to go. Vancouver's plan is to have the project finished by 2050. So it's still a long way off. And finally, about the water meters, again, Councillor Steves and I are always heralding that good news story about the fact that you put in water meters, you conserve water, and you also make it more fair. So you pay for what you use in terms of the water instead of just having a blanket charge that is an approximation at the very best. So I think it has been a good investment over the years. I think the people have come to appreciate how if you want to conserve water within your own home, you've got a water meter, then you're going to realize that savings yourself. So with that, I'm going to call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? That is carried. May I have a motion to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to hear delegations on non-agenda items? So that's moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So we have one such delegation. So we'll call forward Karina Reed and Naomi Leung, Richmond residents, to speak on an anti-racism policy in the city. And so I'll call them forward, and as we did with the other delegations, I'll just remind you that we ask that you introduce yourself, and your delegation is given 5 minutes, so go ahead. Karina?
Hi, I think
yes,
Karina would start, but I can start first, and I'll pass it on to her.
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Naomi Leung, or Leung Po Yan, and I'm a 17-year-old climate and racial justice activist and community organizer.
Your Worship, I can't hear.
Yeah, could you speak closer to your microphone?
Sorry, I can't hear her at all.
Yeah. My name is Naomi Leung. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Naomi Leung, or Leung Po Yan, and I'm a 17-year-old climate and racial justice activist and community organizer with Sustainability Teams. The past 13 years of my life, I've grown up and created lasting memories on this land colonially known as Richmond, BC. I've called this city my home because my family and the ones I love live right here in this region with me. As a young person whose parents immigrated here from Malaysia and Hong Kong, which are two previous colonies under Britain, colonial violence has known me before I could name it. Growing up in Eurocentric society, I've lost touch with my family's language, I've been called whitewashed, and I've lost parts of my culture that will take extreme emotional labor to get back. I'm tired of living in a racist society, and I know that we need to make bold changes to care for people hurt most by racist policy and action. Richmond City Councilors and Mayor Malcolm Brody, you must take a stand against colonial violence, white supremacy, and other systems that disproportionately oppress people of color. Our city needs racial justice, and this includes taking bold strides for Indigenous sovereignty, Black liberation, justice for migrant communities, and justice and equity for all people. I am choosing to speak up about racism and the urgent need for anti-racist policy because I recently celebrated the birthday of my 78-year-old grandma amidst staggering anti-Asian hate crimes rising. I ask that our City Council create a culture in which daily anti-racist practices strive for justice is normal. This must start with equitable anti-racist policy and leadership that is willing to admit its shortcomings and take measures to make amends and protect its people. When I look at the majority white council, but knowing that I live in a diverse city where 76.3% of people identify as a visible minority, I ask that Richmond City Councilors take the safety of its citizens seriously and that they become allies for racialized people through action. City Councilors and Mayor Malcolm Brody, I ask that you collect data on race-based hate crimes, create a comprehensive anti-racism action plan, and that you go far beyond Richmond's current cultural harmony plan in order to adequately address racism in our city. You must see Asian people and other marginalized people in their full identities and consider how gender, class, race, and other factors play into our oppression. Please protect me, my grandma, my family, and the city of Richmond through action. Thank you, and I'll pass it on to Karina.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm sharing the screen. Can everybody see this PowerPoint? Okay. Sorry, I'm going to just try to figure out how to open this up. First of all, thank you so much for having myself and Naomi speak this evening about such an important topic. Yesterday was the formal day of anti-racism and discrimination, and I wanted to acknowledge that we live and work and organize on the unceded Coast Salish and Musqueam and Hunkaneeman language-speaking group. Land acknowledge it is a small but important step towards reconciliation. So why be specific on the anti-racism policy? Well, according to the BC government, anti-racism is the practice of identifying and challenging and preventing, eliminating the changing values and structures and policy and programs and behaviors. So really this looks at structural racism and institutional racism. As we know, Premier Hogan pointed out that 76% of Richmond's population is a visible minority, and Premier Hogan pointed out that 717% of anti-Asian hate crimes happened last year. And I would love to know the information and data on what our stats are in Richmond. And being such a diverse city in Richmond, we really need to be a leader in implementing anti-racism policies like other cities have so far. Vancouver, Victoria, New Westminster, White Rock, North Van, New Westminster and Vancouver have two of the most in-depth anti-racist policies. So in regards to our kind of...
I'd ask you to summarize. We do have your written submission, and I can tell you you're out of time.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, and there's some key steps at the end that Richmond can do to start creating the anti-racism policies.
All right, thank you very much. We have a couple of questioners. Let's just see. Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the delegations for the presentation. You know, racism and hate have no place in our community, and I'm sure that all of Council is committed to creating a more inclusive and welcoming community for all people. I would like to make a referral, Your Worship. Should I do it now?
Okay, I'll come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Councillor McNulty. You're muted there, Bill.
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. I was going to make a referral to staff taking the information, the most valuable information from our delegation, and refer it to staff for reporting back to Council on it, and to see how it fits in with what we're already doing and what we need to do.
Oh, okay. Again, we'll come back.
So I've moved that at this time.
We'll come back.
I'd like to put it on the floor.
We'll come back to you on that one. Councillor Day.
Thanks very much. Ms. Reid, thank you for your presentation, and hopefully everybody else will have a chance to read it after. 5 minutes is not near enough time. In our report, we received a cultural harmony plan update, and it calls for 27 recommendations and 5 strategies that include reviewing calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, increasing programming for Muslims and other Indigenous artists, and supporting open doors and other multicultural events. How will your suggestions add on to that, please?
So the 5 targeted points in the Cultural Harmony Plan don't go into specific actionable items. So one is communication programs, services, targeted training, which is really important, intercultural connections and collaboration with partners. We already do a really good job of collaboration with other partners, but the difference with anti-racism is looking at structures that are in place and what barriers other people are facing in Richmond that we aren't capturing. And so an anti-racism plan is targeted and specific, and it can be measurable. So there's a real difference on diversity and inclusion. Anti-racism is a separate policy. So this will have a completely different lens, and we'll be able to look at it very intersectionally.
Well, thank you for bringing... Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say if Naomi wanted to jump in on that at all, or are you okay?
All right.
Thank you very much. I think we're plugging some holes in the dike here, and that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Al.
Yes, Your Worship, I have questions for the delegate and also for staff. Thank you very much for coming forward and making the presentation. I think, as the provincial government points out just a few days ago, we need to have more dialogue. We need to have more talks on this subject, right? Sometimes it makes you feel, not comfortable talking about it, but I think we need to do that. So thank you for bringing forward this very important subject. Now, Karina, I want to ask you a question, because you mentioned somewhere that in the school district, there is an auditing committee, right? It's got racism auditing committee. So tell me, how does it work?
So I'm on the anti-racism committee at the school district, and we have just, we're in the final stages of hiring a third-party auditor. And so we're one of the first districts to do this. So the auditor will come into the school district, look at senior management, all different schools, survey parents, survey students, and just get an overall feeling of what are the barriers that people are facing in Richmond, and then where do we go forward to fixing what we know. And so the good thing, I mean, we went through a lot of this questioning is, when you do an audit, you have to be prepared of the uncomfortableness and the information you're going to receive. But the great thing about that is once you have that data, you can take it and say, these are the barriers we have. This is what's happening to people in Richmond, and this is what we need to do to fix it. So data, the City of Richmond also collects data, and data is really important. And I know that the provincial government is also looking at disintegrated racial data as well. So this is what the Richmond School District is doing, and I am also calling on that the city takes on a lead as well.
All right.
But do you have any information which is not confidential that you can share it with us, about this auditing committee?
Yeah, we have gone through a very lengthy process of a selection of an auditor, and I can share privately with you on what that looks like and sort of some costing. I'm just happy to share that if you want to touch base with me after.
And the final question to you, Karine, is now, yes, I think in the presentation you wanted to talk something about the First Nations, right, the Indigenous people. So can you, in a very concise manner, tell us what is your major concern?
In the Cultural Harmony Plan, it doesn't even mention any Indigenous people at all. There's no, if you look on the website under Cultural Harmony, it talks about recognizing that the first people that came to Richmond were immigrants, and that's not true. So we really need to be changing the information that people are wanting to access, and we need to honor the land that we're on, which is Indigenous Musqueam land. So I really don't think we can be in a cultural harmony if we're not even able to do land acknowledgement and history. People don't know the history in Richmond, and the Richmond News did a really good article about the Musqueam people over the weekend, and I cannot believe the amount of comments people saying, I had no idea they had no idea of that history. So we in our city need to educate people of the history of this land, and that's the beginning of reconciliation.
Okay, thank you. I agree with your comments. And I have a question to staff. Can I ask it now? Or?
No,
okay,
we'll finish with the delegation, then you can ask your question. Let's see now. Councillor Steves.
Yeah, thanks. I've got a comment, and I'd like you to reply on your thoughts on it. This time last year on Twitter, I was literally clobbered with a huge amount of anti-Chinese racism over COVID-19. Basically, the claim was it came from China, it came by plane, it came to Richmond, and it spread through the region. Richmond Council was not allowed to tell the public where it came from. We knew that it didn't come from the Chinese community, but we weren't allowed to say anything. The health units tried to say not point out where this came from. Since then, the maps have shown that Richmond has had the lowest amount of COVID-19 of any place in the region through the entire year. The question I have, these people, unfortunately, that were attacking me on council on Twitter were very racist against the Chinese. were all anonymous. You don't know who they are. And so the question I've got is what indication do you have of how prevalent the racism that some people are feeling in Richmond is actually from Richmond, or is it from elsewhere in the region? I think most of those people that were attacking on Twitter were outside of Richmond.
I have received several emails about this actual presentation, and some of the things were horrendous about the amount of racism that people are facing. And if you look at the women's event, the Zoom attack, that was a sexist, racist attack. You have Latoya, who is a business owner here in Richmond, who had a horrible attack of racism towards her. I have a friend who was recently told that that her employer said to her, "I don't like black people," and she ended up quitting her job. The racism, I think, in Richmond is hidden in many ways the way poverty is hidden. We like to talk about diversity and inclusion because it's nice. It's nice to say we're a diverse and inclusive city, but we really need to talk about the racism because racism is affecting people daily. I obviously haven't experienced any racism, but I have privilege to sit here and say I have friends who have literally quit their job and cannot get jobs because of the color of their skin. So we have a problem in Richmond of racism, and we just need to start putting a good policy in place to dismantle it.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we'll excuse her from the meeting. Councillor Au, you had a question of staff?
Yes, because we received a memo from staff over the weekend, and in the memo on page 2, it talks about one of the things that we are doing right now is review the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report, explore opportunities for Richmond to respond. Now, I remember that we have a referral on this, and I just want to ask staff about the status of that referral right now. So where are we at in terms of the review and the recommendations?
Through your worship to Councillor Al, we have reviewed the TRC calls to action, and we have listed some of the actions that we can take, including part of the action is professional development for staff, and right now the city staff is developing a training program that will promote intercultural competency and as well as anti-racism for staff.
Yes, Your Worship, I think that's very good, but I think that's not enough. And I support the referral motion, but I have 2 other documents which I want to refer to staff as well. One is on this topic, and the other one is on a protocol for united action. So I would say
let's hear the referral motion. So I'll go back to Councillor McPhail. You had a referral motion.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, to refer to staff to work with REACT, Richmond Intercultural Advisory Committee, to analyze and report back.
Second.
Just a minute. Analyze the materials given by the delegation and report back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so that's on the floor. Is there anything more you want to say about that?
I am the liaison to REACT, and I know these are issues that have been topical, and we have had good discussions at the committee level, and I think that we have a varied committee. Many of them represent nonprofit organizations in our community, and I think they would be a good resource for us to have this discussion with. Thank you.
Councillor Day, on the referral.
Yeah, I just wanted to also talk about the memo that we received from staff regarding the steps that are taken right now. On page 2, it states that the RCMP launched a Hate Has No Place poster campaign combating hate and racism in August 2020. My question is, would the mover of the motion entertain, I think it's a friendly amendment that we ask the RCMP to start collecting data so that we know what we're talking about in terms of how prevalent racism is in our community. And I just wanted to see if that's something that we could just add, hopefully friendly.
Well, I think the the delegates already asked for that information, and we do have a RCMP member who sits on REACT, and I'm sure he would be able to access that information.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that kind of information would come back to us. So let's see, who have we got? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. I will be supporting the referral. And my only question is, or maybe again, if it needs to be a friendly amendment, that we actually look into the name of the Intercultural Advisory Committee, and perhaps it gets changed or it has an addition to it where it's Intercultural and Anti-Racism Advisory Committee. I know it's very superficial and it's just a name up, but it'll help people find their direction to the information and the actions that we're taking. Well, right now they can plug that in the search engine on the website, and it doesn't really lead them to any place. So I think the great work that this group is already doing, the advisory group, and the things that they've helped produce with city staff, I think would be beneficial if we perhaps just change the banner for it. So I don't know if that needs to be a friendly amendment, if they look into the possibility of the name change, the name advisement.
Well, yeah, staff will take direction on that, and so they've been given that. My response to that is that I think it's implicit in the work of that group that racism is kind of the key, one of the keys to the whole thing. Let's see now. Councillor Au, back to you.
Yes, Your Worship, I certainly support the referral motion, and I think the city has done a lot on trying to promote harmony among the different cultural groups. But I think there's still more actions to be done. So I think that referral would give us another recommendations for actions. I think we need actions right now. I just want to mention that sometimes we have done things that we may not be aware of. For example, the RCMP said that they have a special team on hate crime. I think not too many people know about that, and certainly I don't know the details. And last year, they have also launched a campaign against hate crime. And I think apart from having some information on their Facebook, the larger community is not aware of it. So I think there are gaps that we have to fill. And as I mentioned earlier, I want to refer two reports or two documents with the referral motion. And I've already given out the two reports as table items. The first one is called Richmond Community Protocol, Responding to Racism and Hate. That was a report being developed by Richmond Multicultural Community Services. And actually, the city was part of it. And this has gone through several rounds of discussions and consultation. And it has been sitting there since 2018. So I think it's time for us to really take a look about the implementation or launching of this program. So I'd like to refer this to staff.
Councillor McPhail, you're okay with that? We'll add that on to the referral.
The Richmond Multicultural Concern Society has a representative at REAC as well, so I think I'm okay with that. I'm sure they are a good resource.
Sure, yeah, I'm not changing anything substantial. I'm just giving you more information. And the second report, or the second document I want to be referred to staff as well, is called Reconciliation with Indigenous Peoples, a Holistic Approach, a Toolkit for Inclusive Municipalities in Canada and Beyond. This is a very fruitful, comprehensive report. It has examples of what other cities are doing in Canada for the Reconciliation Action Plan. So again, I have this on the table, but I also want to refer this to staff for reference so that when they come back with the recommendations, it would be more comprehensive.
You can give that to staff, but in fact, the recommendations by the delegation involved adopting the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada calls to action for cities. So I think we're already on that path. So you can give it to them if it's a resource that they don't have. Okay, so let's see now. So we're on the referral motion, which is to work with REACT to analyze the materials and report back. All those in favor? Any opposed? So that is carried. Okay. So.
Move revised report.
Is it moved and seconded? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So, we've got some announcements to make tonight. The first one, I'd just like to draw your attention to the proclamation that I just signed, apropos of the last discussion. It's for Elimination of Racial Discrimination Week. And I'll just quickly read the whereas clauses. Whereas Richmond is committed to the belief that equal opportunity and treatment should exist for all people, and the city is a culturally diverse community comprised of many different ethnic groups, and every resident of Richmond has the right to realize his or her potential regardless of race, color, national, or ethnic origin, and live at all times in conditions of dignity, respect, and peace. And whereas the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed March 21st as International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and whereas the elimination of racism and racial discrimination can be accomplished through understanding and respect for the dignity of all people and is the social and moral responsibility of each person. Therefore, I, Malcolm Brody, as the mayor of the city of Richmond, do hereby proclaim the week of March 21st to the 27th, 2021 as Elimination of Racial Discrimination Week in the city of Richmond. Now, we had some good news over the weekend coming out of the sports community. I just wanted to let you know that we have 2 Richmond resident athletes who have been named to Canada's Olympic team. You may remember Mo Zhang. She's competed in table tennis in a number of Olympics. I remember seeing her in Beijing when I was sent there by this council. So she's been to 3 or 4 Olympics, and she's been named to the team, as has Evan Dunphy, who's well known to the community in the race walking category. In addition to that, we have oval-trained athletes and teams, the men's field hockey team, Sean McCall, Alana Yep. Both of those people, they were featured on the news the other night. They are climbers, so what better place to climb than the oval? And on the Paralympic side of the equation, we have the wheelchair rugby team. Now, that has yet to be selected, but they train there, as well as Tara Lane, who is a wheelchair basketball athlete. So we want to add our congratulations to all those parties, and I'm sure that we'll be hearing a lot from them before they make that trip. We have the Cherry Blossom Festival. The annual festival is almost upon us. In keeping with the safety requirements of COVID, the year's festival will be virtual for the first time. So from April 11th, Richmond residents and visitors from afar will be able to safely celebrate the 255 Acabona cherry trees blooming in Gary Point Park with an online program. You'll recall that those were planted and the whole program was initiated by the Wakayama Kenshin Kai, which has been so active over the years. The videos featuring local artists and reflections on past festivals will introduce viewers to authentic Japanese crafts, music, and culture. There's also a live webcam of the trees, and people go to Carey Point Park to enjoy them, but if you do that, just remember to maintain social distancing and follow all the public health rules. So if you want to find out more or experience the festival, go to richmondcherryblossomfest.ca. Then as a reminder, we've got a by-election. It's now been set for May 29th. Reminder, the city will hold the by-election on that Saturday for the one council position made vacant last November. Mail voting along with advanced polls will be available, and we encourage everyone to make their mark and cast a ballot in this by-election. Nomination and candidate information packages along with details of where and how to vote can be found at richmond.ca/elections. Then, for the animals, it's important that they are given identification. As the warmer weather approaches, more people are leaving their pets outside, which is resulting in increased reports of lost or stray animals. The BC SPCA, which now provides animal services for the city, is urging owners to have their pets given some form of ID, such as microchips or tattoos, so they can reunite pets with owners quickly. The city requires all cats over the age of 6 months to be spayed or neutered with identification, and all dogs 8 weeks or older must be licensed. And if you want more information on that, again, go to our website. And finally, Easter 2021, this is our last council meeting before Easter, if you can believe it. City Hall will be closed to the extent that it's open. It'll be closed on Fridays, April 2nd and Monday, April 5th. Our next council meeting is Monday, April 12th, but we do have some committee meetings in between there. On behalf of the City Council and the city itself, we wish everybody a safe, happy, and healthy Easter. So, Councillor Wolf.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just another quick one there. I didn't hear you bring it in. It's the Earth Hour, the annual day to acknowledge energy saving between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. this coming Saturday, March the 27th. But it's also a catalyst for change, so finding ways for Richmond residents to reduce electricity throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay, we have no new business. We'll go to bylaws for adoption. On the first one, which is the consolidated 5-year plan, bylaw, may I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Au.
Yes, once again, Your Worship, I have to declare a conflict of interest, so I have to stay away from the meeting.
Okay, so you'll turn off your video there. All right, so that is moved and seconded. Does staff, I'm going to ask staff if they want to make any comment on the budget this year. We have the 5-year plan. Any of the finance people want to say anything about that?
Through Your Worship, it's Jerry Chong here. We don't have any other comments. However, we did hear the delegations talking about the increase. And just a reminder that last year during the pandemic, council did defer the 2.01% tax to this year, delayed the community safety program, and delayed the hiring of the RCMP. So just want to remind people of that, and also delayed the 1% transfer to reserve and reinstated it this year because some of the community projects that are forthcoming, such as the Steveston Community Center, that requires the funding from the reserves. And staff are here to take any other questions.
So, okay, so the figure, which I think is accurate, but please verify if it's accurate, the 5.68% on the average household, residential household, would be about $99 a year?
That's correct, Your Worship, $99 based on the 2020 assessed values.
All right. So if we take a look at that, sorry, I've got so many notes here. So $99 a year. So if we cut back the police, say we cut it all off, how much of that $99 are we going to save?
1% is approximately $17, $17.43.
And again, I've got so many papers here, but I think the figure for the police, all 16 plus the employees, was about 1.25%, 1.5%?
1.24%.
All right, 1.25%. So it would be about $20 or a little less?
Yeah, approximately $21.50, $21.61.
All right. And then the firefighters are 0.75%?
That is correct, Your Worship, 0.75%.
Okay, so in dollar terms, if you cut that off, how much are you saving on the average household?
I have here $13.20.
All right, we'll go to comments. Councillor Day.
I'm going to make a motion to amend the financial plan because I feel that we should delay the 12 firefighters for 1 year, which will save the 1.3%, and then the 1% of deferral to the, let me see the fund. The reason isn't necessarily
Hold it. Just hold it. I want to talk about the procedure here. Mr. Chong, as I understand the procedure, if we don't adopt what you've taken through consultation and what is in front of us, then we would have to refer it back to staff. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship, and then we have to go back through the consultation period and the readings before we adopt the tax bylaw, which is due on May 15th, and looking at the council dates, we're looking at May 10th as the last date. So we're cutting it really close.
But given that, you know, we've suggested a proposed rate of X percent, 5.68, whatever it is. If we reduced it, would you still have to go through all that procedure? I mean, do we have to go back through it saying, you know, okay, now it's 5% or 4%?
Your Worship, we'd still have to do the consultation before we set the 5-year plan and the increases.
All right, so then, Councillor Day, if you're looking to change things, you've got to refer it back.
Yes, I want to refer it back to look at postponing the firefighters for 1 year and deferring the reserve 1%.
Second.
All right, so that's moved and seconded. Anybody speaking on the referral? All right, we'll call a question on the referral. Those in favor? I'll take it all the others are opposed, so that is defeated with Councillor McNulty, Councillor McPhail, Councillor Steves, Councillor Liu, and the mayor opposed. Councillor Day.
That's it. It's gone.
All right. Councillor Wolf.
Recommendation.
No. The recommendation, the bylaw is on the floor. Okay. So
yes, thank you.
So it's Councillor Wolf.
Yeah, thank you. Just I was going to make an amendment. Thanks for getting the process checked for us. I would have then done the referral. So regardless, I'm just going to make the comment that in my time on council, there's never been one issue that generated this much paper or the amount of emails that I've read over. And so I appreciate the feedback from the public, but learning about this process and how we just heard from finance that timelines get close. Let's hopefully all learn from this that we need to start the process a little bit earlier so that we can have a time for a second sober thought, especially when so many pointed comments come from diverse members in our community. So I thank them and all the work they've put in, but I will be supporting the 5-year financial plan, even though I wanted it amended and I wanted the changes that Councillor Day asked. I still think it makes financial sense to support the long-term plan. So that's why I'm going ahead with the support tonight. Thanks.
All right, Councillor Steves.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment on what we're not doing. We're not cutting police and fire. The police will cost $2 a month. The fire will be $1 a month. So when you put it in that context, it is not much to ask the people to pay for better fire and police protection, particularly when we have been labeled as the money laundering capital of Canada. I think it's important that we maintain law and order in this community, and it's too bad we had to put it off from last year to this year. But I'm looking forward to seeing an increased police force with some really good policemen from Surrey or wherever we can get them. The other comment I would make is when we were discussing water and sewer earlier, our annual savings on both water metering and the sewer service, I'm sure, is greater than $3 a year. So while it costs us more in one account, we're paying less in another account.
Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting the bylaw on the floor, and I just wanted to speak to some of my reasons for supporting it. And, you know, I really appreciated the people who came forward and spoke tonight, and I do understand their concerns, but I don't think we can keep deferring items. And for me, when I talk to people in the community, core services and community safety are the two things that people want to see that we deliver. And I'm not in favor of fear-mongering, but I do believe people need information, and all the information, and that's what I look at when I look at all aspects when I make a decision. So in 2019, when we looked at the Safe Community Plan, it was a well-thought-out plan, you know, based on recommendations from the Richmond RCMP and from Richmond Fire Rescue to ensure adequate staffing was in place to address the continued growth in the city. I looked at this as right-sizing the two departments and being proactive for the future. Additional officers approved by council over the 3 years were to allow the Richmond RCMP to do more proactive policing, including increased roadblocks, visibility of officers in areas of high crime, targeting prolific offenders, increased community and business outreach, establishing new programs to combat organized crime and money laundering and mental health related incidents. And despite COVID, all these issues are still ongoing. And, you know, it was mentioned tonight earlier that, you know, we have some low crime stats, and I believe it's because of the officers that we already have on board that we're seeing the trends going down. Another big aspect, and this doesn't get much attention, but there was a really big decision made by the Supreme Court of Canada in July of 2016. It was called R versus Jordan. And what it did, the impact of this ruling requires police to begin compiling complete disclosure packages earlier and to work more closely with Crown prosecutors. We knew we were going to have more resources to support the RCMP so they could get their files up for prosecuting. And this is higher police costing to the municipalities. When I think about fire rescue, and I've already shared my own experience with my mother, but you know, Richmond Fire Rescue staff perform many different emergency roles to keep citizens of Richmond safe. Prior to 2020 and COVID-19, they attended well over 10,000 emergency calls per year. Many of those emergencies would have had more than one truck, and depending on the severity, up to 9 trucks. When a truck is at a call, they're out of service to go somewhere else. Each of those calls had a person, and this is about people. Yes, we talk about money and 5.6 per 8, but this is about people. This is about people getting service, and they deserve that emergency assistance be available to them. Before we had the increases to Richmond Fire Rescue, the last time we hired people was in 2001, and before that, it was 1990. So, as I said, this budget, I think, includes completion of our Safe Community Priority Program, which will deliver police and fire services to our community now and as we continue to grow. And I'm good with that, and I just want people to know how I feel about that. Thank you.
Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'll be supporting this, but I want to thank the delegates and the people that came out and those that sent us letters expressing their concerns, and we will address some of their concerns. But now's the time not to reduce community safety. I'm going to follow with Councilman McPhail. This budget is about your family and also about my family and the people that live around us and our neighbors. And you can't put a price on community safety. You know, I've said at ECOM, Your Worship, and listening to the calls come into ECOM, when a woman is screaming because her mother is turning blue and the ambulance hasn't quite reached it yet, it's 5 minutes away, and mother is going into convulsions, and she's still screaming, and I'm hearing those calls, and I know what it's like with it. And where do we get that? Whether it be ambulance, police, or fire, this is about, as Councilman McPhail said, people. I say it's our families and our friends and neighbors. It's very difficult to make a decision. I've been working for years to keep taxes down and work on efficiencies. But for some reason or other, somebody picked on the RCMP and fire rescue. Nobody came forward to cut other things. We've already cut all our support staff, Your Worship. We've laid 600 to 900 people off. We've made supreme cuts. The next thing is service cuts, and we've got to, and we're trying to get things back to make the quality of life the way it is in Richmond and has been in Richmond, and I think it's something we've got to look at. I want to bring out something. Councillor McPhail went back to 2019. A number of years ago, not long ago, we did a survey of Richmond, and people told us they were not safe and felt safe in Richmond. The break-ins and those kinds of things, the theft. How do you think the people feel where they over on Rathburn Drive, where the homicide was, where the cars are burning, etc.? I think we have to think about all of Richmond and sometimes not our own. And one of the things I do want to correct, Your Worship, Richmond does not have the largest tax increase. We are the most transparent and most honest and open. Look what Surrey has done. Look what Vancouver has done. Please read between the lines, okay? I think that's important. Not that I'm justifying things, but I think the reason Councillor McPhail was saying we have a plan with the RCMP, the reason things are safe is because they're putting constant pressure on the gangs. The gangs like to live in Richmond and do their business in Surrey. The drive-by shootings have started to come to the island. We hope that they stay elsewhere, and the RCMP are doing a magnanimous job. I have 8 pages of notes of why we need the RCMP expansion in Richmond. And similar number for the fire rescue. So, Your Worship, I'm not trying to justify it, but I think we have to get the message out to people what we're talking about. We have an airport to look after where traveling public needs to be supported. We need to have our community police station in Hamilton that we advocated 3 years ago, but we've got a pop-up. The RCMP take 15 minutes to get to Hamilton when it should be 7 minutes because they don't have enough officers. There's a number of areas in Richmond that need to be boosted up, and our school programs. I mean, I could go on and on all night, Your Worship, but the people of Richmond said they want to see the RCMP on the ground, boots on the ground, very visible. Same with the fire rescue, driving that truck around out in the community so we know we're safe, and the most of all, we feel safe. And that is something that's been lacking in our health questionnaires over the years. We want our people of Richmond to be safe. And with that, Your Worship, others will speak, but I'm not doing. We will look for efficiencies in other areas. Councillor Steve mentioned what we save in Metro Vancouver. We probably saved the $99 by the work that you and Councillor Steve are doing with the cost of water per year. The water meter is supposed to have saved us hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month if we had to buy it in volume as opposed to through the metering system because we get a cheaper rate. It's the same with our recycling and our sewage and our tipping fees. So with that, Your Worship, I will support it. And I think anytime you see a police officer or fireman, thank them for the work that they do. If you see an ambulance driver, thank them too.
All right, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I'll also be supporting the numbers on tonight's budget, the consolidated budget. And I'd also like to thank everyone that came out tonight and everybody who's weighed in on this. And certainly, you know, everybody's budget at home is tight. Everybody's been concerned over the pandemic. And I think this is the time that we need to still stay the course with maintaining our roads, our sewers, our diking, our flood protection. We need to keep our programs up and running. We need to keep the swimming lessons on, the water safety programs for our kids going, and for the recreation programs for everyone to be able to get out to be active. People can't go away. They need to be able to stay active. They still need to be out in their community, and they need a safe place to be in their community. We need our police. We've just recently got the Fox 80 program, the Fox 80 car that has the mental health component that's serving our people with mental health problems. We need to fight organized crime. We can't be allowing organized criminals to take over Richmond. Those guys don't take a break for COVID. They're still out there. And then we've got, how often are we getting the emails and the notices that there's a missing senior or there's missing kids? Well, guess who's going and getting those people and finding those people and taking the time? It's our RCMP. We just got a note this evening of Shing Jack Lee. He went missing. He's an 87-year-old. He went missing today, and he was found, luckily, safe and fine. But those are the people that we're looking for. It's your grandmother, your kids that are out going missing, and the people that are finding them and that can respond immediately are the RCMP, and that's why we're hiring them now. For many years, we've been challenging the police to do more with less, and they've been doing tons of overtime. They've been starting to burn out, and they're transferring out of Richmond. We need to make sure that we're properly staffed, and that's what we're doing. We're making sure we have the police, the people to do the work. And finally, of course, we need firefighters. There's always something happening where you need the firefighters. And our firefighters are now going to be trained to be giving COVID immunizations and helping out with that. So they're here to support the community and work for us here in Richmond and keep everyone safe and well. And so that's why I'm supporting this.
From my point of view, there's been 3 cost drivers which have led to the lion's share of the increase. The first is the 1% which goes to reserves. So we take 1% of the budget, we put it to reserves so that we will have money for when we enter into some really ambitious building programs. The best example of that is the Stevenson Community Center. We've been leading up to that for years. We're in the design phase of that, consulting with the public on it. And when we finally get to a budget, we expect it to be about $100 million. So we do need money into our building reserves to fund that partially, because the alternative is that we have to borrow the money. So it's just, to me, it's just prudent to take that 1% each year as you can. Now, having said that, last year we cut that off because of the COVID situation. The year before that, we cut it off by 0.5%. So I think that it's high time that we have the full 1%, and unfortunately that's this year. The other 2 cost drivers are what we've been talking about a lot. The RCMP, probably $15 or $20 of the increase, of the $99 increase, and the Richmond Fire Rescue for $10 or $15. If you want to increase a group like the RCMP or the firefighters, you don't just do it one year you decide you want 40 officers of some kind. You do it gradually over a period of time. Last year we cut back on the RCMP. We didn't fund that part of it. Just the way it worked out. We did fund the Richmond Fire Rescue because they had already gone through the recruitment, they had done the hiring, and it just didn't seem right to go back on that. So I think we have to put all of the discussion into context. I agree with Councillor McNulty. Other cities are very interesting in the way they characterize it, but there's one other city that claims to have lower taxes. They have, because they went through a period of 9 years with 0% tax increase, they have a 1% road levy. So 1% of the budget goes right into the road infrastructure that they ignored for many, many years during that 0% tax increase time. And also, they have there's a name for it, which escapes me. It's a community tax or something like that, which is basically a head tax, which is, I think the figure this year is $300. I think it was $200 and now it's $300. So you start factoring that 1% road levy and that $300, we're talking about a $99 increase. They have their head tax alone, which is $300 per person. So we are not the highest in the region. And in terms of we talked about the condos and all the proliferation of the condos. Well, the fact is, when we are doing our tax increases and figuring out what it has to be, growth is taken into account. So usually it's at a rate of about 1.5% to take that kind of growth into account, not to mention the extra expenses we have from that growth. So all that is to say, I'm not expecting anybody to thank me particularly for a tax increase. I think we have shown over the years that we have been extremely diligent in making sure that our tax increase is as low as it can be. This is bad medicine. I understand that. Nobody likes it. But I think, and of course, the 5-year plan calls for the tax increase next year to be significantly reduced from what we're talking about this year. So I am going to support the consolidated 5-year financial plan that is in front of us. Nobody likes it, but that shows how strongly I feel that this year, this is just what we have to have. And, you know, as I say, nobody likes it, but that's what it is. So with that, I'm going to call the question on the consolidated 5-year plan. All those in favor? Those opposed? Those opposed? I don't see anyone opposed. So that's carried. All right, now, Madam Clerk, we've got...
Move the other bylaws.
Okay, so just a minute. We'll do the ones that are not opposed. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 of them. That's moved, and it's seconded. Any discussion on any of them? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And then on the one...
Move 9953.
All right, so that's moved and seconded. Discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So that's carried with Councillor Day opposed. Madam Clerk, there's one over the page as well. On the last page.
So moved. So moved.
That's moved and seconded. No previous opposition. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? That is carried. Now, Madam Clerk, on the development permit panel, I understand there's a little adjustment we need to make on number 2.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. For recommendation 2, the corresponding zoning bylaw is not on tonight's agenda, and as such, Council is not able to consider issuing the relevant development permit, and it would be in order to refer recommendation 2 back to staff.
All right, let's have that referral. Moved and seconded. Discussion on that?
How long does it take to come back? They've already been waiting.
Do we know?
How long when's it coming back? At the next council meeting? I would include that in the motion.
It would come back.
Through your worship.
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor McNulty, yes, we would expect that the bylaw and the development permit will come to the next available council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So on the referral, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that's carried. And so on the first part, for the minutes, be received for information. May I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Someone move adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, we're now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.